Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. In the house today, I am super excited to have Dr. Taz. Dr. Taz M.D. is a nationally recognized physician specializing in integrative and functional medicine. She is the founder of Center Spring M.D., an acupuncturist and nutrition specialist. She is an expert in women's health and family wellness. Her expansive medical career includes over a decade in emergency medicine, pediatrics, and prevention. She is the author of Superwoman RX, What Doctors Eat, and the 21-Day Belly Fix, host of the Dr. Taz Show and Kitchen Cures. I started to say curves.
Mouthful.
Kitchen Cures. And founder of East West, her specially formulated line of supplements. She has served as a medical expert on many media outlets, including The Today Show, Dr. Oz, CNN, and Live with Kelly and Ryan. And I'm really excited today. I met Dr. Taz at the TEDx on Lincoln Square. She gave such a great talk about empowering women, and she's written a book, Superwoman RX, and I wore this shirt in honor of
I love it.
because I was just, you won't believe this, but I was just wearing a cape this weekend. I was Supergirl.
I love it.
And I thought about that a little bit before our talk today, and I thought, wonder why they didn't call it Superwoman. Is that too powerful? No. I mean, I was thinking about it a little. I was getting a little deep with that. But, Supergirl, Superwoman, we're all wearing capes, and we're just trying to get everything done, and we're just wearing too many capes. And I just want to talk a little bit about how can we tap into our superpowers that are missing or we feel like they're missing? What are some ways?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's an interesting time for women, right? I mean, I think we have every opportunity at our fingertips, but we still have a lot of old paradigms that have not busted yet, right? Whether it's the paradigm at home or the paradigm at work or what a woman's role is or, all these things that we're juggling. So we have tremendous opportunity. We can run companies, we can, write books, we can have children, we can choose not to, whatever it is. But because everything hasn't exactly shifted, we're one of the most stressed generations of women in history, because we just have too many roles. We have too many things on our agenda. We have too much to do. There was some peace, quite honestly, although there's a different level of stress when you go back to the 50s model where, it's a very carved out, clear role. This is your role. You're not going to deviate from this particular role, right? Now, nobody wants to go back to the 50s. That's not what I'm suggesting, but it's just, I'm trying to paint the picture for how hard it is for women today. It's just really, really tough. And what's happening is, because of what's transpired and what will continue to transpire until it's fixed, is that women, more than any other time in history, have more anxiety, more depression, more issues with cancer, breast cancer, cardiovascular disease is the number one killer of women. I mean, we're not exactly in the best physical or mental shape, although we've got all this opportunity in front of us. So when I set out to write the Superwoman RX, I was, it's perplexing, right? It was like, how do I help women? How do I empower women so that they can go do the 50,000 things they want to do? Because I know for a fact that I wouldn't want anyone in my way, right? I wouldn't want anyone telling me that you can't do this or you can't go do that. But at the same time, I want to make sure I have the energy to sustain everything I want to accomplish. And what struck me in practice after sitting with probably now 15,000 women over these last 10 years is that, we all are driven by kind of the same beat. We want to do things. We want to impact the world. We want to care for our families. We're always the nurturers. We're always the caregivers. But we don't have a recipe. We don't have a way to navigate our health. And so while everybody propped us up educationally or propped us up maybe even financially, we don't really have a recipe for health. And it's such a missing piece of information, and it's such an important space. I was like, what if we could help women start this wellness journey so that they could be their best selves, not just exist, and really thrive at everything that they're meant to do. So that was the intention of it.
Well, I was reading in the book where you were talking about how you were doing it all and you were super exhausted. You were super drained. And I know a lot of us out there can relate to that feeling of overwhelm. How, I want to do this, how can I do it all and still look feminine while I'm playing a male role, and so you went through all of that. How did you go from being super drained to super charged?
Right. Well, it's what I call the most blessed accidental journey you could ever imagine. So I started like many of you may start, not feeling good, going from not feeling good and not feeling vibrant to truly being sick. And that's an important point to make because many women wait until they're sick to begin this journey, as I did. I would encourage anybody out there listening today to start with when you don't feel vibrant. The minute you don't feel vibrant anymore, that's your first warning sign. Don't ignore it. But anyhow, I got sick. I started going to doctors. I couldn't get the answers I needed, got put on a bunch of different medications, and knew that it wasn't working. So I started my own path. I'm a physician. I started my own path of trying to study everything I could get my hands on, and found Eastern medicine, found Chinese medicine, nutrition, acupuncture, and slowly, very slowly, putting the pieces together, understood that, there's some needs I had. I had some nutritional needs. I had a dietary need. I had some hormone imbalances, which really, honestly, I think I talk about in the book, it just boiled down to the fact that I needed to be gluten-free. I needed to balance my thyroid. I needed to be on B and iron. Those were essential for me. And to this day, 20 years later, when I stray from that, I don't do well. I'm a different person. And, it took me a really long time to get to that for me. But in the process of my journey, like so much information, right? So it was my sweet husband that was just like, you need to start. You need to do something with all this information. And now that I see, the experience, the length of time, the numerous patients that we've seen, it's become so much easier to get people to that point much quicker. So it came down to understanding what my chemistry was, what my vulnerabilities were. Eastern medicine does a really good job of this. They believe in typing people. They don't think about a one size fits all. So they would put people into types. Chinese medicine did that. Ayurvedic medicine did that. But those types were as specific as this is your personality trait. This is your emotional makeup. And because of this, these are the medical consequences that you may face down your road. And if you know about these on the front end, then you're going to have such a great road all the way down because you're going to be prepped for that stuff. So the fun part for me is taking that knowledge, merging it with conventional medicine and lab work, and seeing everything really roll out very nicely. So I wanted women to have a starting point. Like, this is where you begin, trying to understand yourself. And as you understand yourself, you can manage and balance your chemistry so much better.
What are the 5 powers that we can tap into?
Yes, the power types. Absolutely. So there are 5 key power types. They all have fun names, but I promise there's a meaning behind each. So there's the gypsy girl. She's my creative, my dreamer, kind of disconnected.
That was my roommate this weekend. She was definitely the gypsy
Okay, there you
girl.
go.
And I love living vicariously through her energy.
Yeah, they're in a different space almost, right? Like they're creating, they're imaginative. But again, with that comes different medical issues. Okay, a tendency towards anxiety, problems with adrenal dysfunction, problems with inattention. There is the boss lady. You probably know her. She's like, I've got stuff to do. I got to lead a team. I got to get stuff done. Deadline, list, that person. And it's interesting with the book, there are a lot of boss ladies. It's one of the dominant types that we found, but they are pitta in Ayurvedic medicine. So they hold their stress in their gut. So their digestive system is often the first to go. And then that's followed by more inflammation, more tendency towards thyroid disorders, autoimmune disease. There's the savvy chick, which is a blend. That's me. It's a blend between the dreamer and the creative, and then this very more aggressive boss lady.
Oh,
they are usually.
What is that one again?
It's called the savvy chick.
Oh, okay, I like it.
So it's a blend between the two.
Oh.
They're often visionaries, right? They often have a vision. That's the creative part. but then they have the wherewithal to make it a reality. So it doesn't stay out here in space, it actually manifests as something. So they flux. They flux between the medical issues of the two, the personality traits of the two. There's the Earth Mama, and that's your nurturer. That's that woman who is always the center of a community. She's the center of a family. You can depend on her. She keeps a group of girlfriends together. She keeps a family together. She has different issues too, because she's the nurturer, because she's the center. Like, she never observes her own boundaries. So there's an Ayurvedic type to that. They're kaphas, and they have more blood sugar issues, cardiometabolic issues. So those are some of their issues. And then lastly, there's the Nightingale, and they're interesting in many ways. I think all women have a little bit of Nightingale in them, but
we want to take care of people and save them.
He takes care of people, exactly. Like, we all want to take care of people, save people, fix people, but for Nightingales, it's an all-encompassing mission, and it wears them down. It wears their immune system down. They get sick more frequently. They have low energy, and they usually, again, they only act when they're falling apart. So those are my 5 types. And I make a really important point in the book that some of us are all of those women, right? You name a point of our lives, and we may have been the gypsy, we might be the nurturer at some point, we might be the Nightingale at some point. But as we flux through all these different types, our needs change. And so if we can understand and maybe keep taking this test over and over again and understanding where we are in the different phases of our lives, then I think we really have a formula for adapting our chemistry to what life is wanting from us, and then keeping us vibrating at that higher level. Because I think the minute we fall off, our choices go haywire. The minute you start becoming a shadow version of who you are because you're tired, or because you're in pain, or because you have inflammation, or any of these reasons, you're not going to make good decisions. You're not going to be able to see straight. And so then your life, almost like that Gwyneth Paltrow movie, Sliding Doors, your life takes a totally different journey than maybe the one that you would have taken if you had been in a different space. So it's just a lot of time that I felt like, I don't want to say wasted, because it led to amazing things, but why not manifest your gifts as soon as you can and find your best self, So that's what my hope is with all of this.
Well, I love the 5 types, and I immediately, it clicked with me so much, because I started thinking, who was the gypsy, who was the Nightingale, and then the one that you were talking about that supports everyone, the nurturer. And I was just thinking about how I could think of all my friends that were each one. And so that's the beauty of it, is all of us women have different gifts, and we could come together and just focusing on our strengths, right? So that we could harness that superpower. Yeah. So how do we,
Absolutely,
when we're not in our best selves and we are overwhelmed, because many of us are, how do we step out of that overwhelm into our superpower? What are some ways to do that?
I think some simple things are, first of all, doing things like journaling, for example. And we talk about this a lot in the book. So just writing out your thoughts, because a lot of times you are disconnected from yourself. So externalizing all that stuff onto a piece of paper where you can look at it a little bit more objectively is sometimes helpful. I think doing a body scan where you learn to do what in Eastern medicine they would teach everybody to do. How's your hair doing? Pay attention to it. Is it changing? How's your skin? Is there a shift there? I just did a podcast episode today on how skin really is a wellness sign. It's another way to assess kind of your overall health. What's happening with your tongue? Is it coated? Is it not coated? What are your nails doing? Are they breaking left and right? And then if you are starting to notice the soft things, like your energy's off, or your mood is off, you're getting more irritable, you're snapping more, you're depressed, these are all ways for you to realize that you're getting super drained, you're no longer supercharged. And I think the first step is really to find a provider or somebody you can work with to help you down this path, of, what is it that you're missing? What are you not doing? And for the people who don't have access to somebody like that, I think it's then maybe even using some of the tools in the book, find your type, and then maybe start with that meal plan or start with some of those supplements to see if they make a difference,
Yeah. So I really liked how you laid it out in the book, how we each had a type, and I could almost see each person as I was thinking about them, how it really did go with what you had written, how they might have issues with irritable bowel, or they might have issues with the stress with the thyroid or the hair falling out or whatever. So I think it's a good, accurate name to call this Superwoman RX, because in the book you had all these fixes for the type of woman you are. And I know
Yeah.
I'm probably more than one type, like how you said there's,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah.
but I could see myself so much in what you wrote in the book. And then when I listened to you at the TED Talk, I was extremely intrigued about how you talked about women that come in all the time to you, that have given their power away. They are disempowered. They are living lives they weren't meant to live. They're in broken down relationships, and they are getting less than they deserve. What would you say if you could speak to those women right now?
Yeah, I mean, that's such a tough one, right? Because you have to be receptive to the information. But I think we all have, especially as women, we all have intuition. And I think at some level, there's a knowing, a really deep knowing when you're in a situation that you're not supposed to be in, right? Or when you're in, or you're making choices that don't really align with your best interest. And so to really be able to navigate what's right for you versus what's right for the community or for the family and all these other things that women struggle with, I think you've got to have a toolbox. And that toolbox helps you navigate and not use your intellect to override your intuition, which is the biggest mistake, fallacy that I see women make. Our brains can allow us to justify anything. We can justify any decision. I have to stay with that guy because I have two kids. And if I leave that guy, the two kids are going to have X, Y, and Z issues. Or I have to stay in this job because of whatever reason. So your brain can take you down any road you choose for it to take you down. But it's your intuition that ultimately has the knowing and the power to override your brain. So, at one point men made fun of us for that, right? Like we don't think, we feel, and because we feel, we don't make good leaders. But I say that is our biggest power, the power of intuition and the power of feeling. But controlling those feelings to then make rational decisions is the power of being a woman, a supercharged woman that many men have not tapped into or have not developed. And that's why they don't make great world leaders or they don't make great business owners or things like that. So tapping into your power of intuition requires a toolbox. It is not something that you naturally have, although you do have it, but it's been buried after all the things we already go through. So that's where, what is it that's going to work for you? Is it meditating for 10 minutes a day? Clarity comes after 30 days. I promise you that. Is it writing in a journal, as we already mentioned, morning and evening? Clarity comes after maybe 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, Julia Cameron, her book, I can't talk about it enough, Morning Pages. I swore by that in my early 20s.
Oh, she was
And
one
then,
of our instructors at the School of Integrative Nutrition.
oh, you're kidding. Yeah. So that is a book that probably guided me in my early 20s to get through the clutter and the noise that I was dealing with. So it's just this dumping, right? Of you dump everything out, you write for 3 weeks at a stretch, first thing in the morning before you're clouded again. That's a tool. That's a tool you can use. There's breath work. There's movement based things like yoga, tai chi, qigong. These are all things. There's nature, right? Being in nature, going on hikes. But again, you got to find what works for you, and come up with a formula for you. And that's where the types matter, because different types resonate with different tools. But first and foremost, before you decision make, find your toolbox to find clarity and to have that intuition sharper, because once that's sharp enough, the decision making part is fairly easy. It may be, going back to our scenarios, it may be that you need to leave that guy, but tomorrow is not the right day, but your intuition has made that decision. Your intellect will now plan and strategize that out. Maybe that you don't need to work for this person over here, but tomorrow's not right because you have X, Y, and Z to take care of. But a year might be right, and there's strategy involved in that decision. So again, I think After having spent so much time on this book and meeting so many women, if I had to sum it down to one thing, I would say it's our intuitive powers that may be our ultimate superpower when, like kryptonite, like anything else, when used correctly, enable us to be our best selves. And so the goal is to understand yourself, come up with that formula, go forward, and then from there, do your decision making and do what you're supposed to do.
And I'm so glad you brought up kryptonite, because that goes along with my next thought, which is when we are super drained, we must be around some kryptonite. And, something that is kryptonite to us. And it could just be our lifestyle. It could be people. How do we recognize what our kryptonite is and move away?
I think it's how I would pay attention to physical cues and energetic cues. Do you walk out of a conversation with somebody drained, or do you walk out lit up, like you're ready to do something big and amazing? Do you feel anxious after talking to somebody, or do you feel kind of at peace? So I would look for your energy clues to identify maybe what's draining you. And that's where, again, being more in your body, in your mind, in your emotions, understanding the shifts you're making will help you to identify that. When we're just sort of existing from experience to experience without kind of doing an internal or an external body scan, then you're not going to be able to pick up on those clues. So, I would just do a quick check, like, oh my gosh, this person just walked out of this conversation. This person drains me. I know this is not going to work long term. And then you're done, So I would say just doing those scans and being a little bit more present in conversations and present in interactions will help you more quickly identify the ones that drain you versus the ones that fulfill you and push you forward.
Now, I know this can be rather difficult, but sometimes you're in a relationship, like it could be your family member that's draining you, that's saying negative things to you, but they're your family, or it's your spouse. Right. It could be someone you work with. How do you navigate that? Because that's a kind of a tougher nugget. Yeah.
So I've been in those scenarios with family members that are incredibly draining because of their own dynamic and their own issues. The only thing, honestly, that works, and what I've seen work with all my patients is you've got to set really clear boundaries, very clear boundaries. And you don't have to, when it's family, people get their feelings hurt, right? So it doesn't go down like this. It doesn't go down like, you drain me, you're an energy vampire, so
that's
I'm only going to talk to you Friday from 12 to 1. You don't do that,
Crossbones.
Like, okay, my mom's really wearing me out. So note to self, I will have these conversations with her when I feel amazing and I'm in a good space, not when I'm drained at the end of my workday. I'm going to talk to her for this many hours during this week, and I'll go physically visit her this many times, So it's a little bit of being wise and understanding that you don't cut people. I'm a big believer of not cutting people out of your life unless you're in an emotional space where they've abused you or done something that you need this healing time to be so far away from them, because then they can be just further damaging. But really creating very strong boundaries, which you don't those are non-negotiable, and that's true for a spouse that might be really negative as well. If this person's going to be negative, well, you'll see him for 30 minutes once a week and you'll take that negativity. But the rest of the time, you'll find a different way to live your life until you're ready to move on. So I think we have to. It's a responsibility. The responsibility comes back on us, no matter what the others are doing. The responsibility is on us to create the scenarios and the energy around us that sustain us, and the minute we sacrifice that and give that away, then the fault's on us too, and so we can't point fingers and blame everybody else. And as you listen to the TED Talk, where science is headed is scary, because it's not just that the fault is on us, but every time we give our power away, we're programming our DNA for the next generation to do the exact same thing. So when you think about it in that context, you understand the incredible responsibility we have to truly always vibrate at a higher level and make good decisions that help elevate us and not drag us down further, because then that dragging down perpetuates, and it takes a long time to right that wrong, so to speak, so it's just we're ultimately the drivers of the train. We have to set the precedents,
Oh,
and
I
we
love
have to
that.
set the standards. I mean, we're not victims, and we shouldn't be acting
Right,
as victims. We should
right.
be acting as empowered people who know how to handle the 20 scenarios in front of them.
And it all boils down to self-worth and, feeling great about yourself. When you're feeling, that self-worth, you're less likely to let yourself be a victim, I think. And, working on building that self-confidence, that self-worth, and also having guts. You have to have some guts to stand up for yourself.
Kidding.
You can't
Yeah,
be a doormat. So I think,
absolutely. And it's all, you need a community. If you haven't been given self-worth, or you haven't been trained to build self-worth as a child, or it was violated, so to speak, through your childhood or your adolescence, then it's a skill you have to build. I mean, I look within our own family, quite honestly, and I look within us, and we had some rocky times growing up with immigrant parents and different religions and expectations, and my parents ended up getting divorced and all this other stuff. And out of all of us, I had the most alone time, quite honestly. I had a big chunk of time where I wasn't dating anybody and I wasn't in a relationship. And that time, I've realized, has been such a gift, because it allowed me to work on myself, and it allowed me to reprogram and rewire things to be able to receive somebody like my husband, who on paper we shouldn't be together, right? Like, he's totally different, younger, hadn't finished school when we had met. Just, I can give you different religion, like the one that our culture hated, and all this other stuff. So there are all these different reasons he wasn't the right person. But because I was in the right place, I could see past all that crap and understand what a caring and loving human being this is. And it sustained us. Actually, today's our anniversary. It sustained us through all this time.
happy anniversary.
But my other sisters have not had that gift of time, and I feel like they mirrored the way we grew up. They've attracted that right back into their lives. So that's where, again, it's the responsibility, the understanding, the knowing who you are, the understanding of what your demons might be or what you might be bringing with you is so critically important.
Yeah, I love that. And attracting to that's another topic. You're attracting things into your life by what you focus on. And I think,
Totally.
yeah, so I love this whole Superwoman RX, where you're focusing on nurturing and self-care, which I really truly believe that, and working out and eating, all that, eating right and having
All of it.
time, it's what builds that self-worth and self-confidence. It helps anyway.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely. You couldn't have said it any better. I think it's like a web, and that web has food. It has, taking the right nutrients for you in. It has managing your hormones. It has self-care. It has exercise. It has community, spiritual connection, space to feel good, right? Being in the right space. All of that is cumulative and additive in terms of building your own personal self-worth, and then finding your intuition and finding your superpowers. You can't jump to intuition, and you can't jump to being superpowered until that work is done. So, I've laid out a roadmap of hopefully helping women to do some of that work so that you guys can get to where you need to go. I mean, we're amazing. We have amazing things to do. So however you contribute to the world, whether you have 12 kids or you have none, or you build a business or you work for somebody or you start a nonprofit or you just do volunteer work, whatever it is, the impact that we each have as humans on the world is cumulative and astounding when we're at our highest self. When we're at a low point and our gifts can't be expressed, it just leads to destruction. And that's the last thing any of us want.
what is your greatest superpower, and how do you hone it in?
Ooh, that's a good one. My greatest superpower. Oh my gosh, there are a couple. So my greatest superpower, maybe my family. They are just they they don't drain me, they sustain me, I guess is the best way to say it. There's just a lot of support and encouragement across the board. My second greatest superpower is being meticulous about food, being really picky about what I eat. My newest superpower is yoga. I'm a certified yoga instructor, but in the busyness of building my practice and having my children and everything else that's transpired since, I lost it somewhere along the way, and I'm back in it. And I forgot how much I loved it. And I got to say, I feel amazing again. I mean, I just feel like why haven't I been doing this all this time? So I think I would put like family, food, yoga, connection to spirit. I think these are things that charge me and remind me of my mission and what I'm after, and just keep me really happy about life.
What is your mission and your greatest why?
Wow. So my mission truly, there's so many different missions. There's small missions and there's big missions, but I think my biggest mission, if you want me to go for that one, is truly to empower over 1 million women to find their gifts. Because if I know I do that, then I've hopefully empowered almost 10 million families. And if I do that, I've probably also changed the lives of millions and millions of children. And I think ultimately, if we can help children for the next generation and for whatever else there is out there, then we've left the planet in a pretty good place. And I think that's the ultimate mission.
Wow, now you're making me cry. That is my eyes are like, woo. That is so beautiful. You are as beautiful inside as you are out.
Oh, thank you.
And I like truly so enjoyed talking to you today and sharing, your tips for all the women out there that want to live super empowered, supercharged lives and feel a lot less drained. And I just want to acknowledge you so much for all your contributions, your hard work, and your super heart. What are 3 simple truths that you can leave with all the women out there listening today?
Know that you're here for a purpose and find that purpose. Understand that how you feel is a warning sign. It's a wellness sign. So always check in with how you're feeling and use and hone your intuition to understand that purpose. I think it would be those 3.
I love it. I love it. Now we're all going to hone into our super women powers and leave a review for Dr. Taz. So she knows how much you enjoyed her taking this time today. She has a very busy practice, you guys. It's ridiculous. I was reading about it, and she's expanding it. Oh my God. And she just does just about everything. She speaks, she talks, she walks the walk. Where can we reach you on social media?
You can follow me on Instagram. It's Dr. Taz, D-R-T-A-Z M.D. I love Instagram. I try to respond to everybody there. And then I'm also on Facebook, Dr. Taz M.D. as well. Those are probably your best 2 channels. And then my website is drtaz.com if you want to grab the book or we have a course that goes with the book now if you want to do any of that.
And we can find our mojo again, right?
Yes. Take the motion. In the book.
There's actually a test in her book, you guys, about the mojo meter. So I thought that was pretty cool and creative. What are the names of your books again? 3, right?
So Superwomen RX is obviously the newest one. Prior to that, the 21-Day Belly Fix was all about digestive health and gut health. That's a pure gut book. It's a great one to understand, why you might be gaining weight, what's happening with inflammation. And then the other one is What Doctors Eat, which is a compilation of recipes from great doctors around the country and their favorite recipes. It's a great cookbook.
Awesome. And they can get these anywhere books are sold?
Anywhere books are sold. Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I am a huge fan of Dr. Taz now.
Thank you. All right, keep wearing that shirt. I love it. And your cape.
Thanks. I'm totally, my cape. I'm totally going to be giving you a review on the book when I'm finished. And and I thank you so much for coming on and sharing your heart today.
Thank you. So good to see you again. Hopefully I can catch you in New York the next time I'm there. So
yeah, absolutely. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everyone, for listening to the Sisterhood of Sweat. And thank you, Dr.
Thank
Taz, for
you.
coming on.